Hello everybody, my name is Sasha, the GM, and today we are going to be combining two monsters that have nothing to do with each other using the Amalgam Creature template. The two creatures that we are going to be combining are the Erodaemon and the Treant, and as you can see I've written down their statistics into a Word document. The Erodaemon can be found in Bestiary 6, page 70, and the Treant can be found in Bestiary 1, page 266. The reason why we're combining them is simply because in no logical world would they ever be combined, and thus we can combine them using magic or alchemical experimentation, or however we want to. I like combining monsters that have nothing to do with each other because it makes it more interesting, but I've written down the template also in a Word document, so I don't have to keep referencing a web page. Alright, so we have a blank monster stat block up in another Word document. The first thing we're going to do is mark this as a homebrew by yours truly. And the name is going to be the Deciduous Desire. I think that's a nice name. It's alliterative and it describes what the monster is all about. It's going to be an amalgam of an Erodaemon plus Treant. Alright, so let's look at the template. The qualifications of any two creatures, we meet that. The challenge rating is the higher of the two, and it's going to be adjusted by anywhere between +0 and +3, depending on how many abilities it gets from being combined. So let's look at the Treant is CR 8 and the Erodaemon is CR 11. So we're going to start with CR 11. And the XP for CR 11 is 12,800. Alright, let's follow the templates. The appearance, so it's going to, I decided that it's going to resemble a Treant with feminine features, less rough bark, and more smooth, sort of like a birch bark. And it's going to have almost human-looking eyes, and its leaves are going to be long and thin, almost resembling green human hair. It's going to have 2 horns because Erodaemons have horns, and its hands and feet are going to end more like claws than hands. And also it's going to have a 3rd eye in the middle of its forehead. So it's going to have the physical features of both the Treant and the Erodaemon, but it's going to look mostly like a Treant. Alright, alignment. If they share an alignment, then their alignment is identical. They do not share an alignment. So let's see what their alignments are. The Treant is neutral good, and the Erodaemon is neutral evil. So since they are within 2 steps of each other, then their alignment has to be within 1 step of both, which means it's going to be true neutral. Most amalgams are true neutral, or close to that. It just happens to be the way that most alignments stack with each other. The type we are going to have to look up in the template. So it is a plant, so plant and outsider. So it's going to be a plant type. We'll figure out the initiative later. Size. It's the same size as the larger of the two. If I'm not mistaken, Erodaemons are medium. Yes, they are. And Treants are huge, so it's going to be huge. And so that's going to mean it takes up 15 feet and has a reach of 15 feet. Oh, and I believe Erodaemons have a snake-like tail, like as in the tail is a snake. Not that it resembles a snake's tail. So it's going to have that too, because it's going to need to have a bite attack, and that's going to be how it gets it. Alright, so after that, let's look at... We looked at type, we looked at size, so let's move on to class levels. Doesn't have any. Senses. It has the senses of both creatures, and if they share a sense, then they use the one that's the longest. So a Treant has low light vision, and an Erodaemon has dark vision and detect good. So dark vision, 60 feet, low light vision, and detect good. Alright, so those are its senses, and the detect good comes from a constant spell-like ability, which I believe that the Deciduous Desire will keep from the Erodaemon. Its aura, do either one of those have an aura? I know Treants don't. Yeah, there's no aura for the Erodaemon, so can skip that. Armor class. They're not the same size, so we're going to increase the smaller creature's armor, natural armor, by 1 per size category. So large, huge. So that's going to be +2 to the Erodaemon's natural armor, and then we're going to average the 2. So let's see, Erodaemon has 9, so that's going to be 11, and the Treant has 14, so 11 plus 14 is 25, divided by 2 is 12.5, round down, so it's going to have a +12 natural armor bonus to AC. And then we're going to look at their hit dice. So it has the same number of hit dice as... sorry, if they have the same number of hit dice, then it has the same number, but I don't believe they do. So it uses the higher number of hit dice. So I believe the Erodaemon has 14, and the Treant has 12. So it's going to have 14. And plants have die 8, so there's going to be 14 die 8, plus however many they get from Constitution. Alright, saving throws. We're going to recalculate the saving throws based on its modified type, so it is a plant, so plants have good fortitude and bad reflex and will. So with 14 hit dice, a good save is 9 and a bad save is 4. So it's going to be 9, 4, and 4. And we're going to modify those with the ability scores once we plug those in. With the speed, we are going to use... I believe it's the faster speeds, and including all speeds that both creatures have. So the Erodaemon has a 30-foot land speed, and the Treant has a 30-foot land speed, so that is both. That's the only speed they get, is a 30-foot land speed. defensive abilities, they include all defensive abilities of both creatures. And if they share one, then they get the higher of the two. So we're just going to copy and paste the defensive qualities. So they're going to have damage reduction 10 to good or silver, immune to acid, death effects, disease, and poison, energy resistance, cold, electricity, fire 10, and spell resistance 22. And from the Treant, I believe we're just going to get, yes, plant traits. Which, by the way, the Deciduous Desire would not have gotten the plant traits if it weren't a plant. So, keep that in mind. And then we're going to look at weaknesses. So they get the weaknesses of both, unless they would have a bonus to it from something else, and then it cancels out. So the Erodaemon has no weaknesses, and the Treant has vulnerability to fire. But since the Erodaemon has fire resistance, we just cancel the two out. So the Deciduous Desire will not have a vulnerability to fire, but at the same time, it will not have fire resistance 10. Alright, and then attacks. They have all the natural attacks of both base creatures. So we're going to look at the Erodaemon. The Erodaemon has a bite from her tail and 2 claws. And keep in mind that the bite attack deals poison as well, which is going to be kept. So it's going to keep that. It's going to have a modified attack roll and damage. So we're just going to delete those. And the attacks are increased because of the size, so it's going to be 2d6, 3d6 for the bite. And then it's going to be 1d8, 2d6 for the claws. And that's because we're moving the Erodaemon's attacks from a medium-sized creature to a huge. So they get an increased in damage die size. And then the Treant has 2 slams. So we just tack on 2 slams, which actually, if I'm not mistaken, the slams come from the arms, and so you can't use 2 claws and 2 slams in the same turn. So we're going to do or bites plus blank, 3d6 plus 1 die for Cadrain, and 2 slams plus, and what's the slams damage? 2d6 plus blank. Oh, and it's 19 to 20 because the Treant has improved critical for their slams, which they're going to keep. They're also going to keep the rock attack that the Treant has, which is going to be that. And then we are going to look at the templates. So they get attacks, and then they get proficiency in everything that the creature had proficiency in, but I don't really know what that is. They don't seem to wield weapons, so it doesn't really matter. The damage is increased based on their size. Space and reach is appropriate for the size category. So if they had special reach for a certain weapon, like a tongue attack, then they would have that increased, but they don't. Special attacks, they get all the special attacks of both creatures. So the Erodaemon is going to be giving them Object of Desire, Wilting Kiss, and Sneak Attack 2d6. And then the Treant is going to be giving them Rock Throwing and Trample. And that's how they have the Rock Attack. And by the way, the Rock Throwing is 180 feet, and the Trample, the damage is going to be different, I believe. Alright, so I looked it up. The Trample DC is strength-based, so that's going to be changing. And so it was 25 for the Treant, so 25 minus 9 is 16, so it's base 16 plus strength. Alright, and then let's look at the templates. Okay, so special attacks, spell-like abilities, and spellcasting. They retain all spellcasting capabilities and spell-like abilities of both creatures, using their hit dice as caster level and using the DCs, the same DCs as the creature uses. The Treant, I don't believe, has any magic. Yeah, the Treant has no magic, so the Erodaemon is the only one giving them magic. And so we're going to first space this out because it doesn't look all that great as is, but then we're going to copy this, come down to spell-like abilities, paste, and then it has no actual casting, just spell-like abilities, so there's that. Caster level is 14 because of hit dice, and the concentration will change. It's going to be 14 plus the charisma modifier, I do believe, and these will be different DCs. Actually, I shouldn't delete them because I'll need to look up. So it's going to be 12 base, 12, 12, 14, 13, 14, and 14. And then we're going to add charisma back to that once I figure out what the charisma is. Alright, so next is abilities. So for each mental score, we're going to average the results, and if it is above 10, we're going to round down. If it's below 10, then we're going to round up. So let's look at intelligence for the Erodaemon. That is 19. And for the Treant, it is 12. So that's 31, so 15 is going to be the intelligence of the Deciduous Desire. Wisdom, the Treant is a 16, and the Erodaemon is a 16, so we're not going to change that. So it's going to be a 16 for Wisdom. Charisma is a 22 for the Erodaemon, and a 13, so that's going to be 35 or 17 total. Alright. And then the physical ability scores, if they're different size categories, add 2 to the base creature strength score per size category smaller it is. So we're going to look at the Erodaemon. It's 2 size categories smaller, so we're going to add 4, so it's going to be 24 versus the Treant's 29, and then we're going to average it, so that's 53 or 26 as the average. So 26 minus 10 is 16, so that's going to be a +8. Dexterity is going to be, let me see, it's going to be -2 from the smaller base creature, and per size category, so it's going to be the Erodaemons 17 to the Treants 8, so that's going to be 25 or 12 as the average. Hey, at least it's not as bad as the Treants. And then for Constitution, it is +1 to the smallers per size category, so it's going to be +2 to the Erodaemon, so it's going to be 23 plus 21, so that's 44, or a 22 average. Alright, so that's going to be a +6. So now we get to do some fun math. 6 times 14 is 84. So it's going to be 14 die 8 plus 84. And we're going to go to my hit point calculator. So 14 die 8 plus 84 is going to be an average HP of 150 and a max HP of 196. Not too terrible. Oh, and I should delete the auras. And then Fortitude is going to be a 15, Reflex is going to be a 5, and Will is going to be a 7. Alright, so the base attack bonus is going to be +10, based on the plant's 3/4 base attack bonus. And then the combat maneuver bonus is going to be 18 plus 2 for the size category, so that's going to be 20. And then the combat maneuver defense is going to be 31. And so you might as well mark down that there's a -2 size penalty, and also that's going to get applied to the attacks. So the base attack is 10, strength is 8, so that's 18. -2 is 16. And then the claws are the same, as well as the slams. So all of their physical attacks are +16. And then their damage is going to be 8 for the bite, claws, and slams. And then, let me just double check, okay. And then the skills will come later. Let's look at the templates again. So that's the abilities. Feats, they retain all bonus feats from both base creatures, but lose all feats granted by hit dice. And then you reallocate new feats based on their new hit dice. So let's see if the Erodaemon has any bonus feats. So 14, so 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, so no bonus feats there. And the Treant has 12, so that's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, so no bonus feats there. So we're going to be giving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 feats to the Deciduous Desire. Let's look at what we can do. We definitely want to keep Quicken Spell-like ability for a suggestion. Let's keep Improved Initiative, just because that is a good idea for a manipulator. Deceitful is a good one. And then Skill Focus Bluff is a good one for the type of build this creature is going to have. Dodge is always useful. We'll trade that out if we need something. Oh, and we could do improved critical slams to keep that the same as the Treant. And then that's 2, 4, 6, so I need one more. Yeah, we don't need agile maneuvers because its dexterity is not better than its strength. We could do combat reflexes. Let's look at the Treant's feats. Improved Sunder, Iron Will, Power Attack. Ooh, Power Attack is good. Let's do Power Attack. Alright. And then... oh, rock is going to... the rock attack is going to be at a +11 with 2d6 plus strength and a half of 12. The trample is going to be strength and a half of 12 with a DC. What did we say the trample was for the Treant? 25 minus strength, so 16 plus 8 is 24. And then, so the charisma bonus is 3. So we're going to do, this is 15, 15, 15, 16, 17, 17, and 17. Alright, and then let's see, skills. I believe we reallocate skills if I'm not mistaken. We did feats, so yeah, skills. Retains all racial skill bonuses of both base creatures, which I believe the Treant has, yeah, plus 16 stealth in forests. So we're going to add that racial modifier. And then the skills themselves, plants get 2 plus their intelligence, which is 2, so 4. So 4 skills that they get bonuses in. So we'll do bluff, which with skill focus, there's going to be 14 ranks in bluff. So it's going to be 14 plus 3 from charisma, so 17, plus 6 from skill focus, so 23, and deceitful gives 4, so 27. And then, let's see, let's look in the Erodaemon skills because that's the one that matters. So let's do disguise because that's important. So that's going to be 14 plus 3, so 17, plus 4 from deceitful, so 21, and I think that's it. And then we'll do stealth is automatic because it gets a racial modifier, so we're not going to put any ranks into stealth, but since it has a plus 16, we'll add its dexterity for a 17. And then I think they get a penalty on their stealth based on their size, so give me a second to look that up. Alright, so they get a -8 for being huge, so that's going to be a +9 for stealth. And then we're going to give them, let's do diplomacy. So that's going to be 14 plus 3, so 17. So that's bluff, diplomacy, and disguise. I need to look up the racial, see if they're class skills. I don't believe they are for a plant, so let me double check. Alright, so stealth is a class skill, but they don't have any ranks in it. But perception is a skill that I always want. So it's going to be 14 plus 3 from wisdom, so 17 plus 3 from being a class skill, so plus 20. So we'll mark off its perception as plus 20, and then its initiative is, improved initiative is 4, plus dexterity is 1, so 5. And it has a plus 1 dex, so we will add that to its armor class. So it's going to be 1 dex plus 12 naturals, 13 minus 2 size is 11, so AC 21. The touch is going to be 10 plus 1 minus 2, which is 9. And the flat-footed is going to be 10 plus 12, which is 22, minus 2 is 20. Alright, is there anything else that we're missing? The environment. Let's do forests. Organization will do the same as treants. So what is the treant? Oops. Treant is solitary or grove. Solitary or grove. And the grove is 2 to 7. Alright, and then treasure is standard. Oh, special abilities. We haven't done that. So I believe they get every special ability, unless it relies on a feature that they don't possess anymore. So they're going to get all the special abilities of both. So we'll start with the Erodaemon. The Erodaemon has Charisma Drain, Object of Desire, and Wilting Kiss. So we will copy and paste those. And then we are going to get Animate Trees, double damage against objects, and Tree Speech from the Treant. Alright. So basically, the Charisma Drain has a DC 22, which is Constitution based. So let me look up the Constitution of the Erodaemon. 5 versus the Deciduous Desires 6. So that's actually 1 point better. So it's going to be DC 23 for the Charisma Drain from the bite attack. And then Object of Desire does not have a DC. Wilting Kiss is charisma based, so it went from a +6 down to a +3. So Wilting Kiss is going to be DC 20 and DC 20. Then Animate Trees is not a DC based ability, and the double damage against objects isn't DC, and True Speech isn't DC, or Tree Speech. So we're going to change the names of all of this to we're not going to use capitals. Deciduous Desires, tail. And we're going to copy and paste Deciduous Desire because I am lazy. So that's going to be Deciduous Desire. And actually we'll copy regular Deciduous Desire so that way you don't have to keep pasting the apostrophe S. Alright, and then Deciduous Desire, Deciduous Desire, Deciduous Desire, Deciduous Desire, Treant, comes that, that, that. Let me just double check. Alright. Actually, it does not gain the Deciduous Desires vulnerability to fire because Deciduous Desire does not have one. Alright, alright, and alright. So now all of the abilities are keyed to Deciduous Desire instead of the Erodaemon and Treant. Oh, and the concentration is 14 plus 3 from Charisma, so it's going to be 17. Alright, now let's work on the lore. So, I'm going to say this animate tree resembles vaguely a female demon. Alright, daemon actually. There we go. And for lore, we'll say that a Deciduous Desire occurs when an Erodaemon is captured and cursed by a god of nature, doomed to defend the forest in which they were captured until they are ultimately destroyed. And since they are stuck in the material plane, oops, I forgot to give the subtypes from the Erodaemon, so we'll do that. And since they are not extraplanar anymore, we'll change that to, now they have their plant, subtype, daemon, evil, and shape changer. And so that's their lore, is that essentially their Erodaemons do something in a forest that makes the god of nature or goddess of nature, depending on which one is paying attention at the moment, angry. And that god or goddess dooms them to take on a tree-like form and defend the forest until they are destroyed. And since they lose the extraplanar subtype, if they are killed on the material plane, they die for good. Alright, tactics, I'm not going to worry about that because that's more of a, like, if I'm going to use one in a campaign, then I'm going to write up the tactics before the session so that I know what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. For buffs, they have some constant effects because of their spell-like abilities. So their constant effects are the same as the Erodaemon, so I'm just going to copy and paste that, but they have Detect Good and Tongues as constant. Oh, and I didn't do languages. So the languages are going to be from both, so they're going to have Abyssal, Draconic, Infernal, Telepathy, 100 feet, and Tongues from the Erodaemon. And from the Treant, they're going to have Common, Sylvan, and Treant. Alright, so they have a lot of languages, plus tongues, which allows them to speak any language and understand all languages. And that tongues is a constant effect, so it's actually going to be quite useful. And I believe that is everything both creatures give to the Deciduous Desire. Yep. So, we have now successfully created the Deciduous Desire. Oh, we have to determine it's a modified CR. So, because the Erodaemon is the stronger of the two, we're going to use the CR11 from the Erodaemon, and then we're going to compare what the Treant gives the Erodaemon. So it gives it a huge size, so I'll say that that's, I don't know, half a CR. It gives it a better constitution and strength, I believe. Yeah, strength. So that's another half a CR, so that's +1. It has lower base attack, but that doesn't really matter because the attacks are still pretty decent. So that's not going to change anything. It does not have more health. Actually, it does because of Constitution, so I'll say another half. The saves are worse because there's only one good save versus 2, so I'll say that that reduces it by 1/2, so it's still a +1 now. It has fewer skills, and it's less good in each skill. And then it has the feats. It doesn't get any bonus feats. Gains a couple of extra languages, but none that are useful. Animate trees is definitely useful, so I'll give that a +1, because that essentially allows it to create more Deciduous Desires. And then tree speech and double damage, I'll say don't give anything. It has the same spell-like abilities as the Erodaemon, so that doesn't change. And it doesn't have any extra buffs, so I'll say that it's a effective +2. And this is all subjective, by the way. I could look up the actual changes on the creating a monster page, but that would take a lot of work, and generally speaking, it's not going to be too useful. So I'm just going to say that from what I think of the bonus abilities it gets, I'll say it's a +2. So it's now a CR13, and because of the way XP works, if you go up by 2, you double the XP. So it's going to be 25,600 XP. Alright, so that is how you use the Amalgam template to create a Deciduous Desire, a combination of the Erodaemon and Treant. I want to thank all of you for watching till the very end. If you like the content, I hope that you subscribe and ring the bell icon. And leave a like if you feel so inclined, and a comment if you feel like you need to say anything or have any questions. And I will see all of you in the next video. Thank you. Goodbye.